Hey everybody and welcome to Chairman of the Board. Today I'm talking about The River by Days of Wonder. Now this is a 2 to 4 player worker placement game that takes about 30 to 45 minutes to play, so it's nice and quick. In the game you're basically placing these workers down, collecting resources and buying tiles. Now those tiles are going to be placed on your personal player board, which follows this river, hence the name of the game. And those tiles kind of contain a lot of different information, such as the terrain type, and you're basically trying to match up these terrain types in columns in order to get more endgame scoring. But they also kind of contain information regarding resources. Basically, if you place your workers on certain resource spaces, such as wood or stone, you're going to get more resources if your tiles match that type. Furthermore, there is information regarding warehouses. Now those warehouses are interesting because they actually dictate how much of these resources you can actually store at one time. So that's a bit of a different twist on these kind of worker placement games, because normally your storage is usually kind of infinite capacity. So it's something you have to be a bit more mindful of in this game. Now Days of Wonder are kind of really known for their stellar production quality. They kind of bring out one game a year, and this one is their 2018 release. As I said, it kind of goes back to those tried and tested ways of collecting resources by placing your worker and building buildings. As I said, those buildings contain what I just mentioned, but also kind of different end game scoring criteria as well. You can also kind of reserve tiles, and obviously every time you build these buildings, you're going to get points. You're going to basically, the quicker you build these buildings as well, you take points off the stack that diminishes as you are slower to build or as the game goes on. So something to be a bit mindful of is to try and build these buildings as quickly as possible so you get those additional points. This game is fairly light, probably the lightest worker placement game I've ever played, which is a bit strange because normally the kind of gateway worker placement games to go to tend to be like Stone Age or Lords of Waterdeep, but I would say this one is even a step below that in terms of its complexity, which is a bit of a strange one for me because I didn't really think there was really that much of a niche for it. Or for that kind of game, because I thought like Stone Age and, as I said, Lords of Waterdeep do kind of fulfill that criteria quite well. So I wasn't really sure of the market that this was really appeal to. But I can see that in terms of like a family game or kind of games that you can play or introduce to your children, this would be a good example because it's really not overwhelming. But long-term wise, I don't think there's going to be a lot here to keep you coming back to it, and you're going to want to kind of move past it quite quickly because in terms of its strategy and choices, there's not a tremendous amount to think about. Now don't get me wrong, there are a couple of different strategies you can go, and as I mentioned, trying to go for those columns to get endgame scoring, getting the different unique tiles, trying to reach the end of your track, and you've got to be a bit mindful as well because the further or the more you place these workers, or place these tiles on your board rather, you're going to lose workers as you're doing that. So that's something to be mindful of as well. Also, this game is pretty tight in terms of the spaces you can deploy your workers to, because there's only like 1 or 2 spots or a couple of spots for each kind of zone. And those first spots, in terms of the resources, you're going to get more bang for your buck. And you can reserve tiles as well, which means that if you buy them kind of from your stored area, you get them at a bit of a discount. And another thing as well is that these resources are finite. So normally, you don't run out of resources in these worker placement games, but this one you kind of have to be more mindful of other players taking the resources before you get there, because there might not actually be anything there for you to take when it comes back around to your turn. So as I said, that's something a little bit different, but not kind of widely off-road compared to what you'd normally find in your standard worker placement games. Now, worker placement games are a bit of a funny one for me because I do really like the mechanism of worker placement, but for me, you have to be very, very different and unique because this is a very kind of convoluted and crowded genre of games. And for me, this game just didn't feel different enough. It just feels so kind of like unoriginal and uninspired. It just feels like everything's been done before in it, and that's something that's a bit kind of, it's not a good thing, and not a good reflection on the game really, because you don't want just tried and tested things being brought out and rehashed again and again and again. It's not even like this has got a wildly different theme either, because it's just basically this kind of folk American theme where you are just building your own little tableau, no real theme to it, just collecting the resources, and you've got your wild resources as these turkeys, which are a bit more kind of versatile. But again, just nothing really out there, nothing really fresh or original about this one. As I said, this is more of a kind of, well, obviously it's a personal opinion. I'm into a lot more complex and heavier games than this, but looking from a kind of unbiased view, I can see why kind of younger gamers or new people new to the hobby would be more interested in this. The production is really, really nice. It does look very nice. The quality of the components is very nice. So no complaints on that front. Visually it's very, very good, as you'd expect of this company. But the problem is with Days of Wonder, their kind of unique selling point to their games is always that they always looked better than everyone else's. But now in today's market, everybody has really upped the ante so much where kind of production quality is, it's a necessity in order to sell your game. So they've kind of lost that kind of unique aspect to their company, which is, could be a bit of a concern for them. Overall, it's not... It's a strange one because there's nothing here that is original at all, as I said. But overall, it's a very nice game. It's completely fine. It plays nice and smoothly. It plays ultra quickly, which is very nice for a game or worker placement game. To play 45 minutes maximum is a nice kind of change, because normally worker placement games take an hour and a half or so. That's nice. But yeah, nothing original here, and it's so forgettable in this really convoluted genre of games, as I said. And I'm not sure this is kind of good enough of a game, or unique enough of a game to stand out above the crowd. Turns fly by very quickly in this game. Uptime's good. Replayability wise, there's a lot of different tiles in here. There are some kind of different end game scoring you can go to, but every game is going to pretty much feel very, very similar. Decisions wise, it's there in terms of prioritizing things, but not tremendous amount of depth there, not loads of different layers of gameplay. And player interaction wise as well, again, not a lot there, just getting into those spaces before other people, which, as I said, the tightness of the game is a bit up there compared to other worker placement games. So getting into those spots first is a bit of a decision to be made. But again, not really enough to warrant picking this worker placement game above other ones. I mean, personally, I think Lords of Waterdeep and Stone Age do fit the criteria of being that gateway game to worker placement a bit better than this one does. So that's my thoughts really. It's a perfectly pleasant game, but as I said, entirely forgettable. Nothing original about it at all, but just generally pleasant, and that's it really. That's my kind of thoughts on The River. It's a perfectly fine, decent game, but again, nothing that people are going to be talking about in years to come. So that's The River by Days of Wonder. So I hope you've enjoyed this very short review of The River. If you have, please hit like and subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos too. For everyone else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye.